I just found this movie at the store in the new releases, but online it says that it came out in 2018. How did I not hear about this? Virgin Cheerleaders in Chains is an indie flick that I honestly had never even heard of. And when I did first see the title, I thought that it was either a 1970s exploitation film or porn. But it's actually neither of those. It's more of a self-aware meta-humor horror film? Kinda? It's definitely meta. It's so meta that at one point in the film, it actually calls itself out for being meta. It's ultimately about a group of 20-somethings that have dreams of making a movie one day. And one day decide, instead of trying to break in by selling a script to Hollywood, to just make their own movie. The first half of the movie is about those trials and tribulations of getting their movie off the ground. And the second half is just batshit crazy. But in a good way, because you know I like me some batshit crazy. Yeah, the good shit. I personally really related with the first half of this film. Unbeknownst to many being everybody, I at one point in time made an independent short film. It was my dream for years, much like the characters in this film, to break into the movie making business. I wanted to be a filmmaker, had tons of ideas, and I knew my ideas were better than everybody else's. And they may have been, but honestly, I had absolutely no fucking training and no clue what the fuck I was doing. But I did it, and I took that shit down off of YouTube when I started this channel. Yeah, you're not gonna find that. All that aside, I did relate with the first part of this movie with their trials and tribulations because I myself went through a lot of that. Maybe not to quite that degree for sure, but I do remember all the ups and downs of making my own movie. One day things go really well and lots of developments happen that make you just very hopeful for what's about to happen. And the very next day everything takes a nosedive and you're just wondering, how the hell am I going to do this thing? I just need to give up. But you don't. You keep on, you move ahead, and it finally happens. And that's what happened here in this movie with these characters. Now, at one point in our story, it becomes clear that this movie is, as I said earlier, meta. You're never totally sure if what you're watching is real or not. By real or not, I mean you're not ever 100% sure if what you're watching is the movie you're watching or if it's the movie within the movie. And then on top of that, there's even some like promotional work for the movie within the movie, or maybe it's the movie within the movie's makers of that movie and some other, I don't know. It gets kind of out there, but it's never so out there as to where you don't understand it. Granted, there are times that you're kind of like, what the fuck is going on here? But it's never like David Lynch so far out there that you are just totally fucking lost. Yeah, I'm talking about you. The movie does a really good job of skirting that line and keeping things just far enough out of reach to where you don't always know exactly what's going on, but you at least know enough of what's going on to keep you going. Now, as I said, the first half of the movie is pretty straightforward and easy enough to understand. And the second half of the movie, yeah, it's easy to understand too, but the movie takes a hard right turn into batshit crazyville. Good place to visit. You don't want to live there though, but good to visit. And this is when a lot of the horror aspects come into play. Now, the movie's never really scary, like in a horror kind of scary way, and it's not really set up to be. It is more lampooning scary movies than anything. Not to the level of something like the Scary Movie franchise. This movie does take itself seriously. Though there are a few moments that tongue is firmly set in cheek, for the most part, it plays it on the straight and narrow. Now, around this point, you may start to actually figure out or recognize the gimmick. You may not know the specifics of it, and you're still not going to know at every moment what's real and what's not, but you'll probably see that in game long before the end credits. But that doesn't diminish the good time to be had here. And I don't feel like the filmmakers were really trying to hide that fact, especially by the time the third act rolls around. Now, they do play the movie out like they're trying to hide it, but I get the feeling that they weren't really trying to hide this fact. The performances here are all actually a lot better than I was expecting for this kind of movie. There are a few moments that seem a bit amateurish here or there, but honestly, I think after watching the movie, that is kind of the vibe they were going for in certain parts of the movie. The reason I say that is because in some parts, there's actually some really solid acting going on. And then in others, it can be a little hokey, but those hokey moments you come to find are part of that movie within a movie. I think. There's a few parts I'm still a little fuzzy on. And at first examination, this is kind of off-putting, but then once you notice that and you see it and realize it, you're like, oh, well, hey, look at that. That's actually pretty smart. Which is what this movie is. It's actually a lot smarter than you think on initial examination. Like I said, the performances overall are actually pretty good. There are some standouts, though. Kelsey Prabilski? Hope I didn't just butcher that. I'm sure I did. Sorry. Elizabeth Maxwell and Evan Michael Glover all do a fantastic job here and are a step above the rest. But really, everybody does a pretty good job with the material they're given. And that material is actually pretty good. There's a scene with Prabilski and Maxwell having a conversation a little closer to the end of the movie. That scene in particular had some extremely solid acting that was a step above all the other in the film. Not to say that everything else is bad, but this scene in particular just was head and shoulders above the rest. From a technical standpoint, they did a fantastic job here as well, especially considering that this is a smaller movie. The movie looks great. Now, we'll take this for granted with a lot of films, but with smaller movies, you'll sometimes get that cheap look. You know what I mean? The lighting's usually off, everything's either terribly overexposed or extremely dark. The framing, even on your most basic scenes, is usually off a bit, the camera doesn't move around a lot, and the dialogue is usually not cut together in a fluid way. But not here. They did a great job with the production values, and that extends to the special effects as well. Now, it is a smaller movie, so there's not tons and tons of effects, but the ones that they do have are practical, and they're the best kind of practical gore effects. The practical gore effects on display here, especially for a smaller movie, are really good. There's a few things that they don't show as much of, and they more imply, and that goes along with having a smaller budget. But they did a fantastic job of shooting these scenes to where you didn't really notice that. That's not to say that they don't show stuff. Oh, there's buckets of blood in this thing, and it is glorious. And the shots that we do get look very realistic. And quite honestly, that's how I'd prefer it. I'd rather have a few really good-looking, great shots rather than a ton of subpar butt trash shots. Yeah, butt trash ain't no good, man. No good. Overall, I was actually really surprised at the technical quality of this film. I hate to say that, it makes it sound like I'm saying something bad about the movie, but, you know, I'm looking at a movie I've never heard of called Virgin Cheerleaders in Chains. I wasn't expecting much. Pleasantly surprised, though. This movie had a great concept, and while, yeah, it was kind of a one-trick pony, they did a great job of stretching that gimmick out over an hour and a half, and keeping it entertaining and fun the entire runtime of the movie. I was never bored. I was entertained from beginning to end. Guys, this was a really fun ride, and I highly recommend it. Yeah, you'll figure out the gimmick probably about halfway through, but like I said, I don't think that they were trying to hide that. And even though, by the time the end scene rolls around, you pretty much know what's going on, and there's not much of a surprise there. When it does happen, it's still very satisfying. I was pleasantly surprised all around by this great little movie. And while, I mean, maybe you're not gonna run out and buy this one first chance you get, it is absolutely worth a rent. You know, I'm kind of conflicted on that. It is worth your money, it's definitely worth a rent, but it's just about worth a buy. Yeah, especially with as cheap as you can get this movie. I mean, fuck it, man. This flick's worth a buy. Fuck that rent shit. Support these filmmakers and get out there and buy this little movie. It ain't gonna cost you much and you're gonna have a good time with it. So there it is, guys, my review of Virgin Cheerleaders in Chains. That's a great fucking title, too. If you enjoyed, want more content like this, hit that subscribe button and help my little channel grow. If you liked what I had to say, give me a thumbs up. If not, let me know in the comments below why. And as always, I'll see you guys next time. This was a surprisingly fun movie, and that is an awesome title. But come on, I cannot be the only one that immediately thought of porn when I saw this title. Anybody? Just me? Yeah.